Hello friends and welcome back. Have you ever been a miserable graduate student in Ohio? Well, I was once. Miserable, that is, because of grad school, not because of Ohio. Ohio's actually pretty chill, especially because it's home to a little place I like to call Handel's. Yes, there may be more famous places to get your ice cream in Columbus, Ohio, but Handel's was one of my favorites. That may just be because it was closest to where I lived, but it might also just be because it was one of my favorites. And one of my favorite things to get at Handel's was a scoop of their coconut cream pie ice cream. It was full of coconut flavor and little crumbly biscuits that I think were an analog to pie crust. Sweet memories are made of sitting on a bench outside of Handel's, talking to a friend and gazing over at the derelict car wash across a field that was a live demonstration of the life cycle of dandelions. In the midst of skimming untold volumes of rhetorical theory and writing carefully numbered pages of my own, Handel's was an oasis, an ice cream-stuffed island of refuge, a frosty retreat from the unrelenting burden that is our outdated notion of academic rigor. But enough about that. We're not here to rehash the horrors of days gone by, albeit days punctuated with the intermittent delight of ice cream. Yes, we're here to talk about my little tribute to this storied flavor, storied at least in my mind, and perhaps soon to become legendary in your own. Now, the goal here is not to recreate that inimitable Handel's classic, but to spin an epic of my own, a Dr. B original inspired by that lofty coconut cream pie. So I think we might as well get to it. So, challenge number 1 is to make coconut-flavored ice cream, and you might be wondering what the challenge of that is. Why not just put coconut flavor in the ice cream? And yes, that's a really reasonable thing to say, but how do you get the coconut in the ice cream? I have passing familiarity with several recipes for coconut ice cream, and I'm disappointed in each of them for a few reasons. Reason number 1. Many of them rely on flavorings and extracts. Now, to be clear, I'm not opposed to flavorings and extracts. I go through vanilla extract like I go through, well, I don't know, but I don't shy away from using it. But there's also something fundamentally dissatisfying about using a flavoring. Like, sure, I could just buy a bottle of flavor and viola, there you have it, but that's not really what it's about. Ice cream is about the quasi-alchemical sorcery of turning one thing into a sweetened dairy version of itself. So, of course, coconut flavoring is out of the question. Reason number 2. Where recipes don't call for flavorings outright, they just call for coconut-flavored things, like creams and syrups. See reason number 1 for my self-flagellating objection. Which brings us to reason number 3. You might just say, steep the coconut in the dairy. It works for banana and basically everything else. Yeah, maybe, but I also don't want to do that. Mostly because every steeping recipe calls for toasting coconut, a normal and understandable procedure for enhancing and complexifying the flavor of the coconut. But you don't need me to tell you that toasted coconut and toastless coconut don't really taste the same, so relying on a toasted coconut recipe just won't do the trick. Also, the prevalence of toasty recipes made me nervous that an untoasted variety of the same procedure just might not work. So what is a grad school survivor like me supposed to do at a time like this? How do you make coconut ice cream when you've already ruled out all the options available to you? Well, here's where I got to thinking. See, coconut has an important final syllable that it shares in common with the word peanut. Peanut ice cream doesn't really exist, but peanut butter ice cream does. So, using the universal law of morphological substitution, I thought, what if I swapped the P out for cocoa and make coconut butter? But does coconut butter even exist? I didn't know, but a little bit of Googling confirmed that I was maybe onto something. And this is my story. So here you can see a whole bag of desiccated coconut in a food processor, and just like with nut butter of any other variety, the name of the game is just to let it go until it's butter. So that's what we'll do. Just watch it spin and whirl and grind away until the end of time. At some point, you may start to worry that it will never work. I reached that point, and all I had to do was add a little bit of coconut oil to help lubricate and liquefy the whole mess. Sometimes, I guess, it gets too dry to become butter, so a little extra oil does the trick. Anyhow and anywho, once you've got your bucket of coconut butter, it's time to move on to the rest. So, my friends, here's a look at everything you'll need, none of which will be too surprising if you've been with us for a while. We've got equal parts milk and cream by volume, not weight though, some sugar, some glucose, some milk powder, and of course, our nut butter. You might have also noticed that there are some sugar cookies here. I'm not going to provide a sugar cookie recipe because this is not Dr. B's bakery. However, you may be pleased to know that this is the same recipe as the snickerdoodles featured in the snickerdoodle ice cream recipe. The difference, though, is that I, of course, plucked off all the grains of cinnamon with a pair of culinary tweezers. If you prefer not to pluck your snickerdoodles, you may opt just to roll them in cinnamon-free cinnamon sugar, most commonly known as sugar. But enough of that, let's hurry to the stove. And you know what that means. Milk, cream, and glucose go in and get hot. Once they're bubbling hot, we'll mix in the milk powder and sugar and cook for a few minutes. Then it comes off the heat for a little dash of xanthan gum, and then the coconut butter goes in before it all goes in the fridge, as it is both custom and scientific necessity. I would also like to take this time to remind you that if you are not taking advantage of whatever gets left over in the pot for taste testing purposes, you are in fact living a sadder life than you need to. But after it's had some hours or overnight to chill, the only option left is to churn, and what a joy it is to churn. It's my favorite part about making ice cream that isn't eating it, because of course, it is the last step before you can eat it. When the churning is mostly over, feel free to dump in your crumbled and frozen cookies. If your churn is full to bursting, it may put up a fuss, in which case you may turn it off and do the rest by hand with a bowl scraper or whatever you call those things. Package your cookie-studded coconut-scented cream into the freezer, and then fetch a spoon with haste and enjoy whatever is left on the sides of the churning bucket. Remember, this is your right and privilege, and you'll be happier for it. Well, well, well. Now that it's the next day, and definitely not a couple months after I filmed this because I got busy grading research papers, let's take a look at our handiwork and give it all an official taste. There are certain things that it is impossible to be unhappy while doing. I would like to submit the consumption of this confection as one of those things. First things first, the coconut flavor is clear, pronounced, and comforting enough to take away the lingering pain of a candidacy examination. The real magic of this recipe is that we achieved such a heartwarming coconut flavor without any performance-enhancing extracts. Now, I will say that there is a certain distinct textural experience at work here that I recognize from an ice cream I made recreationally a while back with coconut milk. It's a little slipperier, for lack of a better word, and that may be something we could control for, but my guess would be that it's a side effect of the coconut fats in this one. They melt at a different temperature from butterfat, so I feel comfortable hypothesizing that they are partially responsible for this textural difference. But we all know it would be goofy to trust the rhetorician on matters of food science. Imagine doing that. Oh, but did I mention that there are cookies in this? Well, there are, and they're as delightful as you'd expect. They evoke those crunchy, crumbly nuggets in the Handel's original, but they also stand on their own as a delightful bit of stuff to bite. So, what else can one say? This is the flavor of relief, delight, escape to a bench beside a dilapidated car wash. What more could you want? Besides $1 billion and for graduation to come sooner, I mean. So my friends, there's not much to say beyond the fact that this is the stuff, the real good stuff, that you should hurry to make on your own because it is both so good and so real. Also, if you are Handels and you'd like to compensate me for my unmitigated praise of your product, please know that I accept. I've already graduated, so now all I'm missing is $1 billion. In all seriousness, though, well, actually I was being serious, but in all additional seriousness, I think this is one of the things that gets me so excited about ice cream. Maybe like a lot of other foods, but its significance goes beyond the cream and sugar that it's made of. Honestly, it's the best friend there ever was, besides maybe the friends who go with you to enjoy the ice cream, but even then, the jury's still out. And now I don't know what else to say other than you should go enjoy some ice cream. If I were being compensated for it, I'd tell you to go enjoy it at your closest Handels, but I'm not. So I'll just tell you to make it yourself as a reward for all the good hard work you've been doing. And with that, I guess it's ciao ciao for now. Now remember, friends, if you leave any residue in the container, it is in fact a moral failing.